Hello, today in the lesson we will learn what an infinite periodic decimal fraction is. But first, let's remember that we know how to write any decimal fraction in the form of a mixed number or an ordinary fraction. For example, if I write down the number 1.5 decimals, then I can write that decimal fraction down as 1.5 decimals or 1.1 second. 1.1 second is a mixed number, a fractional number. And 1.5 tenths is writing that number as a decimal. But we can't always write a fractional number as a decimal. For example, if I write down the following fraction 2 tenths, then I can write that fraction as a decimal. The 2 tenths is 0.2. The 2 tenths, but we can't write all ordinary fractions as decimals. I remind you that any decimal fraction can be written as a fractional number, but not every fraction can be written as a decimal. Why is that so? The fact is that if I write down a fraction 2 tenths, then I can write this fraction as a decimal fraction. Even if the denominator isn't 10, 100, 1,000, and so on, like the fraction 1/4, then I can write that fraction as a decimal too. 0.25 hundredths. But if I need to write the number 1/3 as a decimal, I can't do that. I can't do that. Why not? Because the fraction 1/4 can be written as a decimal. That's 0.25 hundredths. We've learned how to do this, and we know how to do it. Let's write 1/4. Why is it 0.25 hundredths? Because I need to write the denominator in the form of 10, 100, 1,000, and so on. Then, if I multiply 4 times 25, then in the denominator I get 100. But even then, I need to multiply the numerator by 25, and the result is 25 hundredths. So I can write down the fraction 1/4 as 0.25 hundredths. But when writing down a fractional number, we said that the line is called a fractional line. But this line represents a division sign. So 1/4 is 1 divided by 4. And if I am 1 divided by 4, the result is the following number, 1 divided by 4. We can't divide 1 by 4, so we write down 0. 0 times 4 is 0. 1 minus 0 is 1. There are no further signs that we can rewrite, so I'm allowed to add 0, but in the answer, I put a decimal point and add a 0. 10 divided by 4 takes 2. 2 times 4 is 8. 10 minus 8 is 2. I can add another 0. 20 divided by 4 is 5. So 5 times 4 is 20. And the remainder is 0. The result is the fraction 0 times 2500. To write an ordinary fraction as a decimal, well, you have to divide the numerator by the denominator. But there are some fractional numbers that cannot be divided without a remainder. Let's go back to our example, the fraction 1/3. If by definition we have to divide 1 by 3, then when we divide 1 by 3, let's calculate what the answer is. 1 divided by 3, 0. 0 times 3 is 0. Subtract. 1 minus 0 is 1. We put a decimal point and add a 0. 10 divided by 3, we take 3. 3 times 3 is 9, and the remainder is 1. We write down another 0, 10. And again, we divide 10 by 3. We take 3 again. 3 times 3 is 9. And once again, we get 1 in the remainder. We add a 0 and divide again. And the result is that this will go on to infinity. We're not going to be able, we can't divide 1 into 3 without a remainder. And as a result, we end up with 0 integers. And the number 3 will be repeated an infinite number of times. The number 3 in our answer is repeated an infinite number of times. It repeats. In this case, such a number is called an infinite periodic decimal, and the number 3 is called a period. To write an infinite periodic decimal fraction in mathematics, the following values are used. 0 integers, and the number 333 is an infinite number of times repeated by the numeral 3. We can write short in math using the following sign. 0 integers, we write down. And the number that repeats, we mark it with the next sign. We can write it down in another form. Write it as 0 integers and the number that repeats, put a dot above it. Or mark the number that repeats and write it in brackets. The number should be read like this: 0 integers and 3 in a period. I want to draw your attention to the fact that math is an exact science. And when we're solving examples where we can't write a fractional number and we get an infinite decimal, we write the fractional number in the answer so that the answer is accurate. We will talk about this in the next lesson. That's all for today. Goodbye, see you again.